In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. I don't know about other clergy, but I don't like preaching on familiar texts. Well, there's a very different reason for that. You think you know what this is about. We have two texts from St. Luke. One, the prodigal son, the other one, the Good Samaritan, that everyone, even if they're not churchgoers, know. They know that story. They can almost relate it verbatim. Therefore, we think we know what this is all about, right? And so clergy find themselves saying, where do I find the hidden meaning? Where do I find the strange little connection? Because I don't want to bore you, right? Well, here I go. These stories present a problem because what we miss in them is because the familiarity has come to be what it is, that we lose the intention of Jesus in this. One of the aspects of Jesus' stories almost always has an element of either surprise or a sense that he is causing problems with what he said. He's challenging people's attitudes and thinking. And we often miss that when we have the familiarity that is bred from years of hearing these stories. The guy who approaches him is a lawyer. It means that he's a guy who studies the law. Certainly probably was a Pharisee. And when Jesus tells the story, when he asks the question, well, who's my neighbor? He uses the two most important and powerful people as examples of what not to do. A priest and a Levite. They're at the hierarchy of the best of the Jews. So he shows them in bad light. Not something that you would normally do if you're trying to attract parents, right? Particularly since that lawyer is probably one. Because, see, what's happened is the Jews have made a hash of the relationship that they had established with God through the Abrahamic covenant. When Abraham is called by God to be the father of many nations, God expected and made clear that the object was that the whole world would bless themselves through him in coming to know God. And yet, by the time Jesus is on the scene, the Jews are more exclusive than any other people. In fact, only a born, full-blood Jew could be a Jew who could inherit the covenant. Not the Samaritans. They were half-breeds. They worshiped at the wrong place. They weren't full-blooded Jews. And certainly not Greeks or Romans. Oh, yes, they could become what were called God-fearers. But they were never allowed to go into the temple, make part of the temple. They were never fully a part of the situation. Jesus came to show, at least in part, that God's intention is for everyone, not just a group of people who have been given a command to go forth and didn't. And narrow themselves down into a select little group. And as long as they were okay with each other, they were fine. The rest of the world, well, who cares? This particular story is a finger in the eye of that concept. Now, I don't think, therefore, that the purpose of this parable, as Jesus gave it to the Jews, has much to do with us particularly. I hope not. I don't think we are Episcopalians and say, oh, we're only Episcopalians, the rest of all we don't care about it. Oh, and by the way, we don't want anyone else here. Now, I hope that just putting a sign out on the street that says, Episcopal Church welcomes you is not the only thing you do to ask people to come and be a part of who we are. I hope there's a little more going on than that, okay? But I don't think we have to worry about the fact that we don't want anyone else here, except all of us chickens. Okay? So what is this story about for you and me in the 20th century as Episcopalians and Christians? Well, I think there is something. Because what Jesus gives is an answer, very specifically, to at least one very major question that you and I deal with on a daily basis. And that is, who is our God? I can't imagine any of us don't struggle with that. Because, see, you and I, unlike the Jews of that day, are confronted daily, and I mean daily, with information about neighbors we know nothing about, other than they're in trouble. We're inundated with the possibility of neighbors, whether they're in Ukraine, or Uvalde, or Chicago, or even as close as Oxford, or any other number of places. This particular church has a wonderful ministry for reaching out. We give food to people we don't know. They know about us. We probably know extremely little about any of the people who come and ask for food. Very little personal connection. But here we are, being a neighbor, right? Right? Well, yes. Really? Really? I'll give you a story that I'm not proud to talk about. I was called to be the rector of a downtown church in Houston, Texas. I told them we were going to change things because this was a very wealthy group of people, all white, in the middle of an all-black community of great poverty, homeless people everywhere. And they had a guard at the door that was coming in, okay? And I said, that will change. So on the first Sunday that I was there, it happened to be February, for Epiphany. I said, let's have a festival of lights for Epiphany. It was stupid of me. I didn't realize that at my time you don't put that in that church. So they hired 4 extra police officers, lit the place with extra lighting so that people could park and get over to church and not feel in danger. So I was outside acting as priest and counselor. And we got everybody in the church. And just as I was about to go in, it was quite cold. This guy walks up to me, who clearly was a big person. He said, Father, I just got in off the bus, which was down the street. He says, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? I said, look, this is my first night. I don't have any means to do. I've got service. You hang around. I'm going to have a reception, and I'll see you somewhere. He said, okay, pull up his collar and sit down on the steps of the church. And I walked in. The minute I shut the door, I was struck to the heart with the fact that I had just really not known. So I opened the door and I walked out and I said, hey, we're having a worship service. Why don't you come in and worship with us? And he broke into tears. I didn't know what it was about. He said, no, you don't understand, Father. He says, I haven't always been a bum. I'm an alcoholic, and I had to leave my home because I was abusive to my wife. I've been on the street 4 years. He says, I'm good at it. I have money. I didn't come in off the bus. I lied to you. That's okay. He says, but you know the big thing? In all the time that I've gone to churches in the last 4 years, no one has ever asked me to worship. What kind of neighbor were any of us being? I said, well, we are. I need to finish this story. He joined the church and he stayed for a year and he got a job. He did well and he got off alcohol. And the next, that was January, next Christmas, we did our first banquet. And he was the cook and he was there. And at the end of the banquet, he said, Steve, you think I could call home? I said, yeah, I think I could. We're into my office and he called home. His wife answered. She says, where are you? He said, I'm a Christian. He says, come home. I never wanted you to leave. I've waited for you. I've wondered about you. I've been worried about you. Please come home. He says, you know, I think I came. I think I have changed and I came. And we sent him home. For the next 6 years, I got Christmas cards from him saying how well he was doing. The problem with having neighbors that we don't ever touch, that we don't ever know who they are or what the circumstance is, other than that sense of something not going right, isn't what Jesus is talking about here. Listen. Neighborliness, as Christ is talking about, requires a lot more. When I ran that church, I did a lot of working and studying, trying to figure out, and I discovered that typically churches that do a lot of outreach have about 15 years before we run out of steam. Because the demand is so high, and they keep doing it, and guess what? You can help people and replace them, but there's always more. And the fatigue factor becomes huge. And people get overwhelmed. And there isn't much success. So what am I trying to say? Here it is. Jesus, the Episcopal Church in the 1928 parable, concluded its service every time with a little interesting phrase in the last sermon. Go into the world to do the work that God has prepared beforehand for us to walk in. That's what it said. We sort of say that in service, but not like that. That God has prepared for us something that we have to walk into, and it is there for us. It is there intentionally for us. So how do you know that? How do you get to it? Somehow, if we open our hearts, if we change the attitude from being, oh, everyone's my neighbor. Well, all right, fine. But what good does that do, really? What do we accomplish when we have such a large number of neighbors that we can't deal with them and it's overwhelming? When, in fact, God has something for you to do. It may be a single moment like the Samaritan had. It may be an ongoing moment that you are called to be involved in. It may be a particular person or a particular ministry or a particular something that includes connecting at that point. Because real neighborliness requires agape in the long run. And agape has to deal with something that most of us don't like, and that is when I don't like what you say, I don't like what you believe, I don't like things, you hurt me, you made bad things, I still love you. I'm still in a relationship with you. I'm still going to be your friend. I'm going to be your neighbor and love you. We don't have to do that with people we don't know. Who the world says, oh, these are people who are innocent victims. Well, they're victims, but how innocent they are, no one knows. Because no one is so innocent that they don't cause us problems against the hotel. When you're called, the commitment is there. Your neighbor is who God puts in front of you. And you hear that call, you understand that call, and you meet that call. You listen to God's call to you through the Holy Spirit, and it dwells you and gives you that itch. And if each of us would look at it from the standpoint of how personal it is, not the sort of general sense of getting it from the internet, or feeling sorry for people you value. As important as it is, and important we should pray for them, and it's important that all that should be done. But Jesus was talking about this significantly more personal. Be a neighbor. Be a neighbor.